Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be again here in Professional Days in Railton. We're again with Boiron, and I'm going to show you a couple of techniques, a couple of things I've been working on for the past year, and I want to share with you guys. I am Brazilian, based in Helsinki, in Finland, and in Scandinavia, especially in Helsinki, I'm having a lot of troubles with allergies. I don't know how is the situation here in Latvia, but I suspect that it's going to the same direction. People are not eating, they don't want to eat pork gelatin anymore. They're having a lot of troubles with milk products. And we have a lot of vegans, and they're very loud people. They like to express their food culture. And we are getting a lot of orders in the hotel. Of all the groups, we're going to have somebody who is vegan, somebody who's going to be gluten-free, somebody who's lactose-free, and so on and so on. So I've been developing, the past year, a new way of making pastry. I've been cutting the gelatin and substituting with pectins, and I've been working with different pectins. And also, I've been working on vegan products, milk-free completely, and developing a range of gluten-free and so on. So today we're going to be making some of the recipes from the booklet. If you guys don't have a booklet, I think Christian over there has a few more. So I would recommend you take some, and I'm going to be explaining. Very quickly, Boiron, it's a company that when I started working as a pastry chef, I had no recipes whatsoever. And in the beginning, it was the company that kind of helped me. The history of Boiron, they started trading fruit between Valence to Paris. It's a family-owned business, and now it's the grandson of the founder of Boiron who is running the company. There is over 1,000 recipes in their website. They are a company that the reason they started making fruit puree was because of pastry chefs back in the 70s. They wanted to have high-quality fruit all year around instead of only the seasons. So that's the reason why they went into making fruit puree. Mr. Boiron himself is a very passionate person about fruit. He works directly with farmers. He's really focused on the quality of the fruit. He goes all over the road to get, we have about 52 ranges in our catalog. He goes all over the road to find the best of the best. So for example, sea buckthorn, it's from here. It's a local berry from this country. Also mango that we're going to be using today, it's from India. It's a mix between two mangoes from India that is in my opinion, one of the best mangoes. There's a huge variety of mangoes in the road, but the Indian mango is very special because they call it the saffron mango. It has a very deep yellow color. And I'm going to show you how you can also use the purees to enhance flavors. A lot of the times you use mango. I get mango that are flown from the other side of the road into Helsinki, and I have it in a dessert. And the mangoes are not good quality. And the only way that I can assure the quality is by adding the fruit puree. We have a huge variety of fruit puree that is 100%. Some of the purees have added sugar, but that's just because some of the purees need the bricks to be fixed. Also, another important part about the purees of Boiron is that they have a team of scientists behind it that is always fixing the purees, so they are always the same quality. So that means your recipes are always working the same. If you guys are using your own purees, if you're making your own purees, every time it's going to be different. Every time the season, it's going to be a different berry. It's going to be a different ripeness of the fruit. So when you make it and you try on the recipe, it's going to have a different bricks, and then your recipes are not going to work the same. When it comes to Boiron, they have, everything is controlled. So every time you get the mango puree is going to be the same. And also their compromise with quality is really amazing because if the fruit gets to the factory and it's not good enough, they will reject the shipment, and therefore there won't be the puree for the next year. For example, 2 years ago, we didn't have yuzu. Yuzu is a lemon from Japan, and the production that year in Japan was very bad. So when the fruit arrived in the factory, they had to reject and send it back. And there was no yuzu for over a year. This also happened with the coconut. It was a bit of a problem. So it's a company that it's a family company dealt by somebody who's really passionate about fruit. So he assures quality. If you want quality puree and 100% puree, it's our company who is the leading company in the world. All right, I'm having a little bit of a difficult problem here because this pot is not warming up. Chef, I'm having trouble with the induction here for some reason. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, we need to, I don't know if this is not working or if we need a different pot. But anyways, what I have here in the pot, I have a glaze, a vegan glaze, that it's basically just fruit puree and pectin and sugar. So it's a very amazing technique because it's 100% vegan and it's very malleable. Do you think you can find a different pot?
Yeah, I can put it in different pot.
In different pot, yes, please. Yes, thank you very much. So we're going to try to work with this. So I want to give you guys an example of what I use a lot of the purees. I have here, I don't know if the camera, what is the direction? There we go. I have here some random mango that is cut. And it's quite tasteless, okay? It's been flown, this one, I think, all the way from Brazil. So it's been in the airplane, it doesn't taste like anything, it's far away from when it's been picked. And a lot of the times I want to add some real fruit for the texture of the desserts. So therefore I have the mango here. And here I have the mango puree from Boron. As you can see, in 2019, the company changed completely their packaging. We have a package now that is completely sealed with silicone around. It's very easy to keep tight. And when you have purees such as lemon or bergamot or yuzu that's liquid, this will ensure that the puree is not going to leak. Also, they made it very easy that sometimes you don't want to open the whole puree. So you can choose whether you open everything if you're making big batches, if you're making sorbets and you're going to use the whole. Or then you can just open this side. So now, I want you guys to see the color of transformation of this mango. And this is going to be the base of the flavor of the whole mango salad that I'm going to make. And after the masterclass, I would recommend you guys come and taste. So you can see now the difference. Some amber yellow mangoes, different colors. It's now all involved in this beautiful, rich yellow, rich in flavor, and I can smell it from here, the real deep mango flavor. Also, I always keep a couple of those bottles in my fridge at all times, especially with the citrus fruit. We have a very wide variety of citrus. We have yuzu, we have bergamot, we have calamansi, lemon, lime, and especially the citrus puree. They will last for a long time once defrosted in the freezer. So whatever that I'm doing in the kitchen, I always have a bottle, so you can just add a lot of extra flavor. So now I'm adding a bit of yuzu. And you don't need so much. You can taste. A little bit more yuzu. And now I have the right acidity that I want for my dessert. And I have a mango that's going to last 2 days in the fridge for my mise en place. So if I have a restaurant, I'll make a big batch for 2 days, keep it in an airtight container, and when the dessert is ordered, they are taken straight from there. I can put this back on and seal it. And you can see, I can turn upside down and it stays. So this has been a huge improvement. I think all the pastry chefs have been asking for Boron to improve on the packaging because it can become very messy sometimes with the fruit purees. Same thing with strawberries. Strawberries is a fruit that we have the best strawberries in this part of the world. In the summer, we have the best strawberries. Especially the Nordic strawberries in Finland. From the north, they are amazing. They're so tasty. They get so much sunlight. They're the most amazing fruit in my perspective. But the problem is that when I'm ordering strawberries, if you have a small restaurant and you order in the local strawberries, it's a different thing. But in a big hotel, the one that I work, the middle of the summer, I'm ordering strawberries and they're coming all the way from Spain sometimes, depending on the strawberries that my supplier is having. So in the summer, I'll have some strawberries that taste like nothing, even during the summer. And then again, they are tasteless, they're not sweet. What do? I'm getting the strawberry from Boron. I know what it tastes like. I know how they produce it. The strawberries are being grown in Poland. It's a funny story after the Second World War, how Poland started to produce a lot of the fruit. The soil for strawberries in Poland are amazing. And the factory, the farmer that's been making the strawberries for Boron, they've been working together for a long time. They take the strawberries from the ground, they freeze it straight away, and they ship it to the factory. And then again, we have here beautiful red color. And that's going to evolve the strawberries during the summer. You can keep it. The strawberries usually 1 day is enough, or more a la minute, because it's a very fragile fruit. It's different from mango. So now, I need to boil. It's boiled? And in this case, I think it's very important that you guys understand that every time you're doing with red fruit, it's very important that you add some acidity, some lime, some lemon. But in this case, I'm going to add a little bit of bergamot. Bergamot is a lemon from Sicily, and it's one of my favorite fruits. It's very floral, it's very bitter. It gives so much flavor. And I love the combination between bergamot and raspberries, or bergamot and strawberries. You can basically put it everywhere. Okay, now I have a very deep taste of strawberry here. You guys are going to be able to taste afterwards. So in the booklet, I recommend that after the masterclass, we're going to have some tastings here. You can taste. All the recipes are here. And I can assist you if there's further questions after the masterclass. But I have prepared a couple of different ways of manipulating the fruit. You can manipulate them with agar-agar, you can manipulate them with pectin, you can choose a variety of manipulation for them. In this case, we have here our local berry, the sea buckthorn. And this is a funny story as well, because sea buckthorn was created by sales representative of Boron, Helen. Unfortunately, she doesn't work with us anymore, but she saw the need for the market, and I love it because I'm coming from Brazil, and my favorite fruit is passion fruit. I like to put passion fruit everywhere, and I think sea buckthorn is the passion fruit of the Nordics. Even though it tastes, when you eat it on its own, it's not the nicest taste in the world. The smell as well. Sometimes a lot of people don't like the smell of sea buckthorn. But when you have the application, when you mix it especially with chocolate, milk or white chocolate, it's one of the most amazing berries in the world. So in this case, I have played with agar-agar. Agar-agar, it's I'm sure everybody by now knows the technique. You just boil, you blend it into a gel. Once it's boiled, it's gonna set into a very dough gel, and then you just have to turn in a very fast blender, so it becomes a very fine gel. And here's an example. I had been having a lot of trouble with sea buckthorn because in Finland everybody loves sea buckthorn. I like to put in a lot of the desserts, but every time I use this from a local producer, and as I said, every time the bricks was different. And what I mean by the bricks was different, sometimes the consistency was different, sometimes the thickness was different, and the acidity was different. So sometimes I used to certain amount of agar-agar and it wouldn't work. Or I would put certain amount of pectin and it wouldn't work. Or it wouldn't be the consistency I wish it to be. And since Boiron came with the sea buckthorn puree, it really kind of helped my life because now all my recipes are very reliable. When I set it with pectin, it's always gonna set. When I set it with agar-agar, it's perfect. So you can see, this is something I always have in the fridge. You are boiling the puree with the sugar and the agar-agar. That means you are pasteurizing the puree one more time. All the purees are pasteurized, but they keep it to certain degrees, and they are pasteurized for freezer pasteurization. If you take it out of the freezer, you can keep it in the fridge for about 5 days, 5 to 6 days. But when you do this kind of application that you're gonna have to boil, it means that you're gonna pasteurize again, you're gonna make a gel, and this is gonna be good for over 2 weeks. So you can always keep it in your fridge if you have a restaurant, if you have a bar. You can use for decoration. You can use for glazing. You can use for cake fillings. In this case, I use inside the chocolate cup a little bit of this. Then there's a little white chocolate na melaca. I roasted the chocolate a little bit to give a more caramel flavor. And I make it's almost like a panna cotta. The recipe is here in the book. And then for the top, I use the sea buckthorn again. And I mean, look at the color of this. It fascinates me. It's very orange. If you make dots everywhere. So it can work in many different ways. You can work as a decoration purpose, as a filling, or as a glaze. And then I have here some gold. Oh, thank you very much. So the gold nuts, it's a very simple process actually. You just blend chocolate on a blender at high speed until you can hear the chocolate is kind of melting and it becoming a crumble. And then you just crumble and put it in the fridge. And it looks like little rocks. You put a little bit of golden colorant. And it's so simple techniques, but it looks very luxurious. Can you go pick it up? The other technique that I have here, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my glaze. When you're making a glaze with pectin, the biggest problem that you have are the air bubbles. And I think for the pastry chef, every time you're glazing some cake, the biggest problem that you always have is going to be air bubbles. One of the main reasons for air bubbles is if your pastry has been in the freezer without any cover. And on the outer skin of the pastry, you're going to develop a little bit of water, tiny water particles, a little bit wet. And when you put a hot glaze, it's going to make bubbles. The technique that I discovered by myself to get rid of the bubbles, especially when I'm using a glaze I need to boil. For example, the pectin glaze. I'm going to boil this. And when I'm boiling, I'm mixing constantly with the whisk. And I'm creating a lot of bubbles in the process. But guys, the reason I make this, using this siphon, is I'm boiling the pectin with the sugar and the fruit puree, and it's coming full of bubbles. And then I'm putting straight in this seafoam. It means that I needed to cool it down. It's going to be about 100 degrees, and I'm going to have frozen pastry. If I try to dip it straight away, it's going to melt my pastry. And while it's cooling it down, all the air bubbles are going to come to the surface. So I'm sure you guys have seen when you boil something, or when you boil stock or glaze whatsoever, what's happening. If you let it sit in the pot or in room temperature, you're going to get that crust on the top. So what I do is I always put on this, wait until it cools down enough, and wait for the air bubbles to completely come to the surface, and then I will pipe it down. That means that I'm going to have a glaze here, and all the air bubbles are going to get stuck on the wall of this. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate here today due to technical difficulties. But this is the glaze, the final result, and this is completely vegan. So I have made a bavarois with pectin. It's the consistency you guys can taste after the masterclass. It's almost like mousse consistency. So the pectin is setting. You boil the puree with the sugar. You add the lemon juice afterwards. And then you have to let it cool down a little bit before you mix the cream. And in this case, I used a plant-based cream that it works just as a whipped cream. Then I have dark chocolate. And also I have put a recipe in the book, in the Morello cherry recipe, with pectin. And you can put less sugar, and you can add alcohol as well, so you can make your homemade sherry. So I have frozen cherries that I've added boiron, Morello fruit puree, and I add a little bit of alcohol as well, of preference. And here I have some chocolate decoration, which is dark chocolate. And the way you can make this a little bit thicker, you add a little bit of water to the dark chocolate. It's a lot of people say that you're not allowed to add water to chocolate. But in this case, when you add water to the chocolate becomes thicker. It's almost like a cream, and then you can pipe and make different decorations. And here we have, we've been having this in the brunch in a camp for the vegans, and the afternoon tea as well. Also, another way that we have manipulated, you can add fruit puree to chocolates to make a ganache. So when I make a macaron, I like to make very deep flavor. So I mixed passion fruit puree. This is one of my favorite recipes, by the way. It's here in the book. You mix passion fruit, inverted sugar, which in this case is going to be helping as an emulsifier. And you mix with the chocolate. It's very important to remember that cocoa butter is a very tricky fat. The cocoa butter likes to split. It's much harder to make a ganache emulsion than it is to make hollandaise. Most people are afraid of hollandaise, but if you follow certain steps of hollandaise, you can always be successful. Also, it's important to be very patient when you're making macarons with chocolate ganache, because what happens is when you mix the chocolate with the fruit puree, the cocoa butter very slowly starts to crystallize. But once it's completely crystallized, you're going to have a big problem, meaning that your ganache is over. It's not pipeable anymore. Or if you try to pipe it straight away when you first mix, it's too loose. So you try to pipe on the macaron, and it's going to run away. And that's a big problem. So you need to be very attentive. You need to know the temperature of your room, and you need to be able to wait for the right moment, the right consistency, so you can pipe the macaron. It's a little bit more tricky than if you use other fillings. But also I think it's very important to put more flavor into the macaron. So in this case, I used pectin and passion fruit. The same way I use the sea buckthorn. So I have boiled the puree with the pectin, the sugar, and I have set it in the fridge, and then I blend it again, and I put it in the piping bags. And you can also add other flavors. You can add lemon zest, lime zest. You can add some citrus fruit if you want, some yuzu. You can play around with the fruits. I have been playing a lot with Christian. In the factory, they do this game that they try to play around with the fruits. And he has an amazing combination, which is blood orange with calamansi. And I recommend you guys come and taste it. You taste the blood orange on its own, and then you add a couple of drops of calamansi on the top. The color changes, and the flavor just has a completely different profile. So I feel very, very privileged to work with Boiron and being able to play with the fruit all the time. So as you guys can see, I have put it in the middle. There is a bit of the passion fruit jelly. So you pipe a bit of the passion fruit jelly in the middle, and then you pipe the ganache around it. So you have two flavors of passion. Flavor the passion in the ganache, and then plus extra to kill all the sweetness. Also, I have here our favorite mushroom of the fall, the poisonous one. But apparently, if you manipulate it right, you can have a lot of fun with this. But this mushroom, it fascinates me because I'm coming from Brazil, and I'm not part of the mushroom culture, so every fall I fall in love. I go to the forest to hunt for mushrooms. And every time I take friends, foreigners, I was with a group of Japanese not so long ago in Finland, and the Japanese chef was just fascinated with this mushroom. And I made a profiterole. I like to imitate this mushroom because to be a little bit playful with the desserts in Helsinki. We like to say that sugar is very bad for you, so therefore you eat a poisonous mushroom. But in this case, I have made a creme chantilly with white chocolate and cream and vanilla. And also, I have done strawberry puree, pectin, and yuzu. I have added both of these together. But as I said, it's very important when you make something with red, especially if you're going to boil, it's extremely important that to avoid the oxidation, if you don't add any citric fruit or any citric acid, it's going to turn brown and you're going to have a lot of trouble. As you can see, you fill then with the strawberry cream and some of the chantilly in the middle. Also the crackling, the recipe is in the book. I add some beetroot colorant to make it red. Sometimes I play with the colors of this as well. If you have a buffet, we have many different colors on the buffet with the different flavors. In this case, we have strawberry, so I made a red crackling. It's kind of a process that takes some time. A lot of the times I wait for trainees. When I have a lot of trainees in my kitchen, first day usually they're making these cracklings. I make them make a lot in the freezer. So then it's very easy that you make the choux paste, you pipe them, put the crackling on top, and that's making the choux raise evenly and also very round because the crackling is actually making the shape. And this is it. I would like to have you guys here on the stage. We're going to take some photos. And then if you'd like to taste some of the products. Also, I would please recommend that you come to our stand, taste our range. The range that we have here this year, it's all 100% fruit. So it's very important to remember that there's nothing added in the purees. A lot of people come to ask if we add anything to the purees. No, the purees are 100% fruit, nothing else. So you can use the purees for diabetic people, for example. If you want to make a fruit salad and enhance the flavor, you can use it, no problem. Also, as a chef's point of view, I would much rather work with purees that are 100%. Why? Because they're 100% pure. If I'm working with other purees, sometimes you're working with 85% puree, 15% sugar. I'd like to determine how much sugar goes into my recipes. I like to play with that. So I much rather work with purees that are 100%. And the other thing as I was going on about in the beginning of the class, when I was starting pastry, I had no recipes. And Boiron was like a big brother to me. They had the tables of the mousses, cremoises, ice creams, ganaches, marmalades, you name it. You have all the tables with every single puree, how much you have to add of cream, how much butter, how much for every single recipe. There's professionals behind it. The company started because pastry chefs wanted to have fruit puree all year round. And they have been working with pastry chefs all over the world. They work with us constantly. We're constantly making recipes. As I said, if you go to their website, there's over 1,000 recipes. So you can have whatever you want. If you have an idea, I'm sure you're going to find a recipe in the website. Also, please come to the stand after the masterclass. There's all the tables, all the catalogs with loads of different recipes as well. And if you have any questions, we are here to help you, to assist you. If you have any doubts or anything you would like to ask, I'm going to be available until about 4 o'clock this afternoon in the stand. So thank you very much.